afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We certainly do appreciate you joining us today for our Small Credit Union Challenge webinar, recognizing and resolving 5 common challenges. We know you're going to enjoy it today. My name is Catherine Baxter, and I am your moderator for today's event. So before we get started, let's go over a few housekeeping items. So that you can hear this webinar clearly, please adjust the volume on your computer and also allow pop-ups from this particular site. Also, please ask questions throughout the webinar. Don't wait until the end, please. Use the Q&A feature on the lower right-hand side of your console. And what we're going to do is we're going to entertain as many questions as we can before the webinar concludes. But if we don't get to your question, we certainly will answer it once we post the webinar to our LMS. And of course, in approximately 1 week, a closed caption version of this webinar is going to be available in our learning management system. As we get to the Q&A, what we're going to do is we're going to allow you to download the slides. So wait until that. Please stay on. So before we introduce our first speaker, let's do our disclaimer. The materials presented in this webinar are intended as an informative and educational summary of general information on small credit union challenges. The NCUA has taken reasonable measures to ensure the quality of the data and other information produced by the NCUA that is available in this presentation. The NCUA, however, makes no warranty, express or implied, nor assumes any legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, correctness, or completeness of any information that is available through this presentation, nor represents that its use would not infringe on privately owned rights. The slides are intended for educational and discussion purposes and do not constitute legal advice nor replace independent professional judgment. Reference to any specific commercial product, process, or service by trade name, trademark, manufacturer, or otherwise does not constitute an endorsement, recommendation, or favoring by the U.S. government or the NCUA. And now it's my pleasure to announce our speaker today, which is the Honorable Mr. Todd M. Harper with the National Credit Union Administration. So I'm going to turn this platform now over to Todd. Todd, please.
Thank you, Catherine, and good day, everyone. I am pleased to be with you today to talk about a very important topic. What are the challenges facing our nation's small credit unions, and how can they thrive in an ever-changing financial services marketplace? Today, nearly 2/3 of all federally insured credit unions have less than $100 million in assets, which is the NCUA's definition of a small credit union. And these small credit unions play a vital role in providing safe, fair, and affordable financial products and services in communities of color, in rural areas, and in underserved communities around the country. Yet credit unions often face some challenges to their long-term viability, including lower returns on assets, declining membership, high loan delinquencies, increasing non-interest expenses, and perhaps most of all, a lack of succession planning for boards and key personnel. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated these trends as more consumers use online tools and mobile banking apps to conduct financial transactions, and as new actors and fintech firms enter the marketplace that credit unions and banks have traditionally operated in. For the credit union system to continue to achieve its full potential, small credit unions must remain viable and at the heart of the industry. That can be accomplished with a sustained commitment by all of us. At the NCUA, we are doing our part through the Office of Credit Union Resources and Expansion, which provides grants and loans to support small credit unions, low-income credit unions, and MDI credit unions, and trainings like today's webinar. During this webinar, we will discuss the most pressing issues facing small credit unions, including succession planning, technology, strategic planning, operations, and management and board expertise. Our presenters will also provide strategies for small credit unions to manage these challenges so that they can thrive and serve their communities for years to come. I hope that you find the information presented in this webinar valuable. Thank you again for allowing me to be with you today, and thank you for your commitment to the credit union system. As always, be safe, be well, and be kind. Now, back to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Todd. We really appreciate those comments. And what you said is true. Small credit unions are so important to the credit union community. Thank you so much. And now, Todd mentioned that we have a great presentation for you today. I'm introducing now our speakers, which I'd like to call the Dream Team. We have a nice cross section from NCUA that's going to help us understand some of these obstacles may be and some solutions. We have Nicole Whaley, who's our problem case officer, and Lisa Cibola. They're going to do part one. Lisa Cibola is also an examiner in the Southern region as well. Those ladies, Nicole and Lisa, are going to do part one. Then we're going to switch to part two, and that will be by Karen Buren, Justin Trosclair, and Margaret Williams. Karen is a problem case officer in the Western region. Justin is an examiner in the Southern region. And Margaret is a principal examiner in the Western region. And then to round us off, we'll have a good session on listening with Heather Phelps, who's the virtual exam program analysis officer in the Office of the Executive Director. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over now to Nicole Whaley and Lisa Cibola.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are. Small credit unions are indeed a vital part of the credit union movement. Many consumers rely on small credit unions for their services and service. But small credit unions face serious challenges requiring innovative solutions. On the next few slides, Lisa and I will share the 5 most common challenges we see in smaller credit unions, along with some of the warning signs. Next slide, please. Before I get into the presentation, let's watch a short video on succession planning.
In the city of Laid Back, Louisiana, there's a small credit union named Y Change Federal Credit Union. Sally Superstar has served as the manager of this credit union for nearly 40 years. She recently announced her plans to retire at the end of the year, leaving the board scrambling to find her successor. You see, Sally's knowledge, skills, passion, and commitment cannot be easily replaced. And the board of Y Change had grown so comfortable with and accustomed to Sally handling everything over the years, that they never bothered to plan for her replacement. Officials asked Sally for feedback on potential successors, and she recommended they contact the Credit Union League to obtain assistance in developing a plan and launching a search. This was one time the board didn't listen to Sally. Instead, board chairperson Isaac Impulsive came up with his own idea. He nominated his daughter-in-law, Paula Porfit, for the position. The board, feeling pressured and out of time, unanimously voted to name Paula as Sally's successor. Paula has been a bank teller for years but has no credit union or management experience. After Sally's departure, things began to go awry. Paula is overwhelmed in her new role and has made many promises she simply cannot keep. With Sally's retirement and Paula's poor fit, Y Change's financial and operational performance are severely impacted. The board, staff, and NCUA examiners are extremely concerned. Officials soon realized the consequences of failing to have proper succession plans in place.
Well, hopefully everyone was able to see and enjoy the video, which helps us to convey our first challenge. A strong board and a strong CEO or manager is often the determining factor for whether a small credit union will be successful. Thus, inadequate or absent succession plans remain one of the most common reasons small credit unions merge or struggle to operate. It also constitutes a warning sign. Here are some other warning signs. Many CEOs and managers of small credit unions have retired, and many will retire in the coming years. Consideration is often not given to the bread truck or lottery scenario. Attention to this concept is intended to reduce business risk and ensure the continuity of operations when key personnel depart, no matter the reason. I reiterate key personnel, meaning this can apply to any key position. Small credit unions also have difficulty attracting qualified staff. Currently, in a time known as the Great Resignation, many candidates seek organizations with a flexible and clearly defined career path with development opportunities and opportunities for advancement. These options may not be available in small credit unions. Undoubtedly, many applicants will use compensation and benefits to make career choices, which are sure to impact the applicant pool. Similar challenges also exist with filling vacant board positions. Credit union boards have a tremendous fiduciary responsibility without the benefit of compensation and sometimes without proper recognition. The pressure of serving as a volunteer can be high, and the inability to recruit new members can result in an imbalance of skills, too many long-standing board members, and an absence of fresh thinking, energy, and external focus. All these things can stifle a credit union's success and hinder forward movement. Next slide, please. The second challenge is technology. I think all of us would agree an overarching challenge with technology is cost. Many small credit unions simply do not have the scale to afford new technology. Sometimes we see an unwillingness to purchase new technology. New technology requires a significant investment of time and resources to implement and maintain. With limited staff already serving in multiple roles, having to learn, implement, and maintain new or existing technology may appear to be a daunting task. Because smaller credit unions may lack adequate capital to acquire new or upgrade existing technology, they are sometimes unable to compete with larger credit unions and banks by offering fully functioning transactional websites, mobile banking, banking apps, or other electronic services tech-savvy members can use. Next slide, please. There's a quote that says, "If one does not know to what port one is sailing, no wind will be favorable." That said, strategic planning is our third challenge. Strategic planning is a key function of any board, and it is necessary to prioritize efforts, effectively allocate resources, align stakeholders with goals, and ensure goals are backed by sound reasoning. Yet many small credit union boards and management struggle with developing a strong and focused plan. Failing to plan equates to planning to fail. So the lack of a strategic plan is a warning sign. I want to stress the fact that mere planning alone does not guarantee success. Implementation and monitoring of the plan are necessary landmarks. Please remember, you are not developing a plan to satisfy your examiner, but to chart the course of your credit union's future. Members' needs are changing, so it is critical to plan for the changes. Another warning sign is no growth or negative growth and declining trends. This includes all the productivity ratios we measure, such as share, loan, asset, and membership growth, and key financial indicators such as earnings and net worth. Now I will turn it over to Lisa, who will discuss some additional challenges with you.
Thank you, Nicole, and good day, everyone. Not everyone loves a challenge, but small credit unions face them every day. In addition to those Nicole noted, there are other significant challenges small credit unions face. We can all agree that we've had a tough 2 years and that we spent a lot of time and energy serving our members' needs under uncharted constraints. Small staff sizes can prevent proper segregation of duties, which weakens internal controls. Weak or absent internal controls affect nearly every risk area that the NCUA evaluates. In an earlier slide, Nicole talked about small credit unions having difficulty attracting qualified staff, and that currently we are known as the Great Resignation. We are faced with staff shortages and vacant positions. Who's left? Segregation of duties. The concept applies to all areas of our credit union's operation. When you have few employees, how do we two-fold an envelope? Segregation of duties is a challenge to accomplish. Remember, one person should never have all of the keys to the castle. Earlier, we also talked about the lack of adequate capital to acquire new or upgraded technology. A weak financial condition flows through the entire credit union's operation, from the inability to hire employees and provide benefit packages to member services to facilities and technology. For many small credit unions, the member base is shrinking due to an aging membership. In addition, some sponsor groups and core seg groups are closing or downsizing. This, coupled with the intense competition from larger credit unions and an inability to attract new members, generates significant pressures. How is your credit union doing? How does your credit union compare with other credit unions? How well are you serving the financial needs of your members successfully while building capital? And will capital provide support for the future credit union members and staff benefits? Gain perspective. Is your leadership team all rowing in the same direction? Your field of membership has been disrupted or is declining. Now what? What is your credit union's speed limit for growth? Will you be able to add value to your members' business and or add new members via FOM expansions or community charters? This growth is highly desirable. Some credit unions have recognized the need for speed limit growth and have built a plan to survive, thrive, and move forward. Products and services are desired in our lives. Technology-driven products and services have connected and disconnected us as people. Member relationships are fading. For any successful organization, encouraging more members to join is essential. Keep in mind, joining is not enough. Cultivating members so that they remain loyal is about getting them to maximize the products and services offered by you, which we understand can be difficult. Small credit unions may abandon products and services in an effort to avoid the regulatory burden. For example, regulatory changes in mortgage lending. Also, members are looking for an institution that provides convenience through the latest technology. As Nicole mentioned, implementation of such technology requires a significant investment, which many small credit unions simply cannot afford. Nicole mentioned earlier under succession planning that a strong board and a strong CEO or manager is often the determining factor for whether a credit union will be successful. To maintain success, management is tasked with determining their hiring successes and are faced with challenges to find specialized employees, such as accounting, a record-keeping skill set. Recruiting and maintaining accounting, record-keeping, and other skill sets will put the right talent in the right position. Secrets to success. Everyone remember, we do have our Q&A box open for any questions that you may have. Next slide, please. Governance is not compliance. Rather, it is the process by which organizations are controlled and directed. Good governance is at the core of every effective credit union. Some credit union boards struggle to understand how they can improve governance, and not knowing where to start can be part of the problem. Many of the other challenges we have highlighted so far stem from the need for good governance. Hopefully you have seen a common thread with each challenge and the related warning signs. That is, the least effective process is no process at all. Today, we've talked about a few of the challenges that credit unions are facing. Now I will turn it over to Karen and her team to discuss remedies for success.
Thank you, Lisa. We have discussed some of the challenges small credit unions face. Next, we will talk about how you can avoid some of these pitfalls. But first, we think we have the glitch fixed with watching videos, so we're going to watch a brief video.
In the city of On the Move, Louisiana, there's a small credit union named Foresight Federal Credit Union. Paula Planning has served as the manager of this credit union for nearly 35 years. She recently announced her plans to retire in 2024. Paula and the board first started discussing her eventual retirement several years prior. In 2018, Paula had a 2-week unplanned medical leave. During those 2 weeks, the board realized that the credit union was unable to function in her absence. The remaining employees did not know which tasks needed to be completed each day or week. They didn't know where to find certain reports, or even the login information for critical systems. Employee Rachel Right-Hand did her best, but there were many tasks she had never completed before. They were only saved by Paula's eventual return to work. After this wake-up call, Paula and the board took action. During the month of March 2019, Paula started a journal of the tasks that she was completing each day, month, and quarter end. For each task, Paula wrote brief instructions on how to perform the task and where to find the reports required to complete the task. Paula and the board recognized that Rachel Right-Hand had the motivation and ability to replace Paula as the CEO, but not the training or experience. Over the next 2 years, Paula began to rotate her tasks under Rachel. This gave Rachel experience in all key aspects of credit union operations. In 2021, Paula took another 2-week leave, this time for a vacation to Malta. During those 2 weeks, the credit union ran smoothly under Rachel's leadership. It was then that Paula and the board realized that Paula could retire with a smooth transition.
So let's go forward and talk about developing a succession plan. The NCUA board, including notably Chairman Harper, believes that all credit unions should have a succession plan. But small credit unions are particularly susceptible to loss of key management or officials and the hardship it can cause, as we talked about earlier. Sometimes the loss is immediate, and the result can unfortunately lead to merger. We have seen too many small credit unions merge over the last 30 years, and we would like to stem that tide. Be proactive and develop a plan for both the manager position and any other key positions in your credit union, including the CFO, accounting manager, or the loan officer, whichever positions you think are the most important to your credit union. Network and build relationships with other credit unions. These relationships could help you in the event you have a sudden, short-term vacancy, such as an illness or family emergency. Other credit unions, both small and larger credit unions, may be willing to lend staff to help out. We have seen this happen time and again, whether this was in the case of a manager who had a stroke or a manager who had a family emergency. In emergency vacancies, which are longer term, Contact your league for support and to help find qualified replacement staff to fill vacancies and to help advertise for those replacement staffs. In some cases, such as a retirement, you will be able to plan by hiring and training replacement staff by having your plan in place, which details out the criteria for those replacements. Next slide, please. Remember to identify the key positions, critical skills, assessing those that you have and those that you need, and evaluate your plan in an ongoing manner because things change. Ensure your succession plan includes officials. Develop a plan for aging officials or develop term limits to allow board members to become emeritus members and continue to attend meetings and share their knowledge with newer officials. This allows the credit union to build newer officials while continuing to provide a broad base of officials representing your demographics and potentially younger members as well. Develop training plans for both internal staff and your officials. This helps to expand everyone's knowledge base. We will talk more about this a little bit later. There may be someone internally or an official who can be cross-trained as a backup for the manager position. This could be very helpful in the event of an emergency vacancy, sometimes even critical in a 1 or 2 employee credit union. Next slide, please. Our next subject is technology. Technology can be a challenge for any size credit union, but even more for small credit unions with limited staff and limited pocketbooks. You must still do the required due diligence prior to implementing any new programs or services, including developing appropriate policies, completing vendor due diligence, and ongoing risk assessments. Don't wait until after you have implemented the program or service. Conduct proper due diligence before adding any new service. Always get a legal review of large contracts. It may be far more difficult and far more expensive to leave once you have signed on the dotted line, no matter what the salesman has indicated. How much does it cost to leave? What is your exit strategy? Are you prepared to cancel a service that only a few members are using? Determine the true demand for a product, not just that the big boy credit union is offering it. Remember that when asked if someone would like a new service, most will say yes, but that does not always mean they will sign up at your credit union. They may already be using that service someplace else. Ensure you complete a cost analysis, whether converting to a new system or adding a new product, and determine the impact on your financial trends. Consider the hard costs, the cost of the contract itself, and the recurring costs. How much do these costs scale with the number of people who use the service? The soft costs. How much employee time will these new services cost? How much training will staff need? You cannot overtrain, but you can definitely undertrain. Would you need to hire another employee or add hours? How many new internal controls and review steps will you need to add? Revenue. How much revenue will this service generate to offset its costs, or how long before you even expect it to break even? Are your expectations realistic? Next slide, please. Adding a new product you cannot afford with a build it and they will come attitude could be a major profitability problem. If you do not understand how to complete an appropriate cost analysis, find appropriate resources to help you with this assignment, including your auditor, your examiner, or another appropriate third party other than your vendor. Make sure staff also understands how to complete the back office records for the new product as well. This cannot be emphasized enough. Many new products can cause major headaches if not properly planned for. This includes both brand new products or conversions. If not done properly, this can leave problems for the back office staff for months. Appropriate business planning with goals to add products in the future can help you avoid problems with adding technology. A conversion is not simple and requires significant pre-planning. Put in the time to do it right and avoid the disaster. And ask of other credit unions who have done those conversions to those systems also. Also, if you are low income, consider applying for grants to cover startup and related costs through the Community Development Revolving Loan Fund and other sources. Now, let's turn it over to Justin to talk about strategic planning.
Thanks, Karen. Strategic planning is critical, but it can be overwhelming. It's hard to know where to begin. I suggest starting by looking at where your current trends are bringing you. Where would the credit union be in 5 years if we changed nothing and kept going in this direction? Then think about where you would like the credit union to be in 5 or 10 years. What would you need to change to make the second scenario come true? I also suggest looking at other credit unions similar to yourselves who appear to achieve these goals. Find out the differences between their credit union and yours. Is their field of membership similar to yours in size and member characteristics? What does their balance sheet look like? What does their income statement look like? Where do they earn their money? How much are their expenses? What services are they able to successfully offer? Next slide, please. So now we need to start our plan. I always suggest starting the plan by starting with your field of membership and its trends and future. Remember that many business problems are a symptom of an aging or shrinking potential field of membership. Nearly everything else in the plan is dependent upon your field of membership, its needs, its size. For some credit unions, this is a critical problem that must be solved. Ask if your field of membership is large enough to support the kind of credit union you would like to become. If you have already captured 75 to 80% of your field of membership, then no amount of advertising is going to attract a large amount of new accounts. No loan special will massively increase loan volume if there are simply no more members who need loans. Then focus on identifying the most critical items needed to achieve your overarching goals. The value of strategic plans is not defined by its length. The best small credit union strategic plans I've ever seen are maybe only 3 to 5 pages long, but in those 3 to 5 pages, they laid out a clear action plan to accomplish the 2 or 3 most critical goals that will determine 80% of the credit union's success. Remember that small credit unions have a scarcity of resources, time, money, staffing. Only prioritize the most critical goals. Adding too many wish list goals can distract resources and focus from the must-solve problem. Next slide, please. So now we've figured out our main goals, but how do we get there? Well, let's break it down. First, we have a broad goal, and a common one at that. Increase loans by 7% a year. This goal will then have major action steps that cause the goal to happen. In this case, we're going to increase loans by offering a new category of loans and completely revamping our loan rates and terms so that they are competitive. But there are many steps between deciding to offer auto loans and actually granting the first auto loan. If we just set a goal of offering auto loans by the year end 2022, we're likely to get to October and realize there's too many steps left to be done. Brainstorm all of the main steps that have to take place to get to your main goal. Assign responsibility and timeframes for completing each of these sub-actions. Next slide, please. It's also important to have a budget that supports your plan and vice versa. Make sure the numbers in your budget are supported by the action steps in the plan. For example, don't just budget a $10,000 increase in fee income. Support that projection with an action step to increase the loan application fee $10 on the roughly 1,000 loans you grant each year, for a total of $10,000 in additional fee income. When reviewing a budget, I always ask, why will the numbers in this budget come true? And remember, a realistic budget is more important than a budget that shows positive earnings. If you craft a realistic budget and it doesn't show a profit, don't just shift around numbers until it works. Instead, revisit your plan and your action steps. Your actions will determine the numbers you can actually achieve. Next slide, please. Operations are a broad and challenging areas, but some key points. For segregation of duties, leverage technology whenever possible. If you set up the proper system controls on the front end, you can minimize the amount of monitoring reviews needed on the back end. But also you need to be aware of your control weaknesses. In some areas, small credit unions simply cannot achieve full segregation of duties or internal controls. Management and the supervisory committee must be aware of these weaknesses so that you can put in place monitoring to minimize the risk of known control weaknesses. Annual audits and reviews are obviously a regulatory requirement, but I encourage management to look at these processes as value-added functions. Try to find an auditor who helps you identify ways to refine your processes and controls and your overall efficiency. Finally, outsourcing. For some functions, for example, mortgages, outsourcing can have multiple benefits. It might allow the credit union to offer a product that doesn't have enough volume to justify a standalone program. You save on employee training, administrative costs, and control costs. This also typically allows for enhanced internal controls that might not have been possible with limited staff. Now we'll move on to Margaret, who will go over board and employee training and resources. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Justin. It is important that credit union volunteers and staff receive proper training for their positions. Training serves to ensure staff and volunteers are regulatory compliant and can also help mitigate potential fraud. Credit union management is responsible for the oversight and control of members' money. Most problems can be avoided by ensuring you are properly prepared with the appropriate training and internal controls in place. Training can be obtained from a myriad of resources, such as NCUA. For the Board of Directors and Supervisory Committee of smaller credit unions, there is an online learning management system that has various YouTube videos specifically designed to assist the Board and Supervisory Committee meet their responsibilities. In addition, NCUA offers many webinars on hot topics to emphasize regulatory concerns. Many of your credit unions also belong to a credit union league or association that provides training. Furthermore, other credit unions can provide assistance, especially the larger ones. And as a reminder, if your credit union has a low-income designation, you can request a $5,000 grant through the Community Development Revolving Loan Fund. So there is special financial assistance available to you to strengthen the leadership skills of management and credit union officials through formal training. And while your district examiner does not provide direct training, they can be utilized as a resource when you need ideas or simply are not sure where to begin. So please do not hesitate to reach out. So knowing where to obtain training and training-related resources will greatly assist the board and supervisory committee members present today in meeting their fiduciary responsibilities. Next slide, please. The board's responsibilities are great and varied, as the board is responsible for the general direction and control of the credit union. While the board may delegate operational functions and daily operations to management, such as the CEO or manager, the board cannot delegate the responsibility for the credit union's direction. That responsibility is maintained by the board. The board has fiduciary responsibility, which refers to a legal obligation to the highest degree for one party to act in the best interest of another, which are your credit union members. Other specific board responsibilities are outlined in the Federal Credit Union Act, subsection 1761B, NCUA Rules and Regulations, subsection 701.4, and Letter to Federal Credit Unions 11-CU-02. Next slide, please. In addition, the Supervisory Committee volunteers also have numerous and important responsibilities. The responsibilities of the Supervisory Committee are located in NCUA Rules and Regulations, subsection 715.3. The two basic responsibilities are meeting required financial reporting objectives, which can be achieved by hiring the annual auditor for the agreed upon procedures or financial statement audit, and establishing practices and procedures to safeguard members' assets. The specific responsibilities include determining if internal controls are sufficient to meet financial reporting objectives by ensuring the biennial member account verification is completed in accordance with regulatory requirements, determining if financial reports are accurately prepared, determining if policies and procedures are properly administered by completing periodic audits for areas such as cash controls, loans, and bank reconciliation, and determining if procedures are sufficient to safeguard against error, conflict of interest, self-dealing, and fraud, which can be accomplished by resolving member complaints as well as completing internal audits. All of these responsibilities and more, as outlined in NCOA Rules and Regulations subsection 715.3, are instrumental to ensuring the success of the Supervisory Committee. And now I will turn it over to Heather to speak about communications.
Thank you, Margaret. There have been many great recommendations shared so far, and there's just one more area that we want to discuss today about the importance of communication. Effective communication between you and your examiner is one of the key components leading to a successful exam. Identifying your communication preferences and letting your examiner know your preferred communication method is a great place to begin. Some credit union managers prefer their examiner discuss all questions and findings directly with them, while others may prefer that their examiner ask questions with the associated department head. For example, if their examiner has questions regarding the credit union's compliance program, they may want the examiner to pose these questions directly to the compliance officer, while others may want to either be partially involved in the communication or be the main point of contact between the examiner and the compliance officer. Another important aspect is to identify your preferred communication method and timing or frequency of the communication. It is best to identify and express the ways you would like the communication to occur. We have found that some managers prefer that their examiner discuss any questions or concerns at the time when they are identified, while others may prefer that a meeting is scheduled as a way to avoid unexpected disruptions throughout the day. Some examiners have found creating an established meeting frequency at the start of the exam, like a daily check-in, to be valuable. Additionally, some credit unions may have limited hours of operation and would prefer that communication with their examiner occur outside of these hours. If this is the case, it's important to indicate when you'll be available to answer questions and discuss concerns with your examiner. Some managers dislike nonverbal communication methods like text messages and emails, while others prefer those methods as their primary mode of communication. It's important to remember communication does not have to stop once your examination has concluded. Actually, it's best if communication continues between exams. Your examiner can provide direction, guidance, and best practices if you're planning on offering a new product or service. And if you have questions about your examination findings or need clarification on the outstanding documents of resolution, you should contact your examiner rather than waiting until your next scheduled examination. This could lead to successfully resolving examination concerns more timely. Finally, if you have any questions when preparing for an upcoming examination, don't hesitate to contact your examiner. Credit union managers shared that discussing questions regarding the items requested or challenges experienced when uploading documentation to their examiner has helped improve coordination and relieve some of the pre-exam frustrations. While there's no right or wrong way with any of these examples, just understand that open communication and transparency with your examiner is one of the best practices you can adopt. This concludes my remarks, and I will now turn it back over to Catherine.
Thank you, Heather. And now we're going to go, and our next step is going to be, let me share this one more time because we have our Q&A team, and I'm going to turn it over to Justin Rafe, who's a problem case officer from the Southern Region, Brian Mose, who's a principal examiner from the Southern Region, and Garrett Slavin, who's an examiner from the Eastern Region. They're going to give our panel some questions. So I'm going to stop sharing and allow Justin and his team to take over. Justin?
All right. Well, it looks like we had a couple of questions. The first question for the panel: do we know of any leagues that might provide sample succession plans?
Hi, Justin. This is Karen. I don't know specifically, but I know that there are a couple of leagues that have been very helpful with that. And I can tell you that the Heartland League here in Kansas, that covers Kansas and Missouri, has been helpful in that regard in the past. They have been helpful in not only credit unions working through certain situations that they have had in the past, and also the Cornerstone League as well. In fact, one of their employees from the Cornerstone League is in fact out managing a credit union at this very moment. So I know leagues across the country have done this before. Those are just two examples. Also, I might also mention that the NCUA board earlier this year approved a regulation change to implement the requirement for federal credit unions to develop a plan, a succession plan. So there's going to be some guidance coming out as far as developing plans. So look for that. There will be kind of some templates as far as what should be in a plan coming very soon to help with that as well. So I hope that helps to answer that question.
Great. Let's see here. We had, when you were answering that one, Karen, we had one of the guests comment saying that LSCU has a compliance service area and they can help with that as well. So very good. The next question we have is, do we know of anyone with the sample cost benefit spreadsheet that will be willing to share with other credit unions?
So, Justin, that might be something that once we're finished with our Q&A, that we could better address once we post the Q&A to the LMS along with the webinar itself, okay?
Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. Well, that's about it as far as the questions that we had that were of high priority. Anybody on the panel have anything to add?
I know there was a comment too on the long contracts, and I would recommend to that commenter also
Okay.
that's where they also talk about, I mentioned about having a legal review and really, get a legal review on those contracts and have somebody walk through contracts with them, because that may help, not just do the contract review by themselves. So
That's an excellent point, Karen. So I'm going to do this for the audience. I want to allow the audience to be able to download the slides. So give me 1 minute and we're going to set that up for you so that you can download these slides and use them at your leisure. The other thing that I wanted to say, for those credit unions that would like to access this webinar along with the video, we do apologize because the video, we had a glitch unfortunately in the system, and that's why you weren't able to see the first one or hear the second one. So we do apologize for that. But these will all be available in the LMS. If you look at your screen right now, ladies and gentlemen, you should be able to download the presentation that we just finished doing. Right click on it and you can download it to your own computer. This will also be available in the LMS along with the videos that go along with this particular presentation. What we're going to do, if there are no more, right now we don't have any more questions right now that we can actually entertain, and we're actually running out of time. So I'm going to thank the panel that presented this particular webcast: Heather, Margaret, Justin Trosclair, Nicole Whaley, and the entire team that did the presentation for today. And we appreciate the hard work that they put in. So in August of this year, we will have a presentation on succession planning. So stay tuned for that. And we hope that you'll join us then. Thank you again, team, for your presentation and information. Thank you for our Q&A team, Justin Rafe and Brian and Garrett. Thank you so much. But we're going to close out now, and we hope to see you in August for our succession planning presentation. Thank you everyone for joining us, and take care and have a wonderful afternoon and a great week.